Welcome to the third episode of Hard Tag with Tom Bellchambers, Cale Hooker, and my name's Jack Post. We're actually starting without our guest today, but Andrew McGrath will be our guest in a little bit. Job was our guest last week, and I noticed he started an Instagram account since he was on the show.
It went straight to his head, this show, I think.
Well, so the reason I found out about it is because through your Instagram, Tom,
Yep.
you said, hey, guess what? Job's got a new Instagram account. And then Job's only following like 3 people, the Essendon Footy Club and you boys. So I had a feeling that maybe you had set it up for him, or is it the real Job Watson?
It is the real Job Watson. People will be pleased
It's
to
the real
know.
deal.
So I think, as I said, he came in here last week. I think the show probably went to his head a little bit, and he thought he was, a little bit better than what he was. He walked out and thought,
But he was good.
He was good. No, he
good.
was very good. But he's walked out and thought, maybe this social media might be next for me. And he's, I think he did his first Instagram post tonight, actually, with a photo of his family. So
He did, and he did another tweet. I mean, we talked last week about he only did 2 tweets for the year so far. One of them he didn't even do. Michael Hurley jumped on his phone when he left it open. So
He's
back.
going all right. He's got 5,000 followers and he hasn't even posted a photo yet. So
Yeah.
he's doing pretty well for himself.
He's doing good. Cale, obviously yesterday you were late withdrawal from the game. Like super late. It looked like Heath Hocking, who replaced you, wasn't even expecting to play.
Yeah, I think I warmed up, went through the warm-up. I had a bit of a lower leg tightness and I thought it was going to get better as the warm-up went on, and it didn't. And then I think I had about 2 minutes to make a decision. The doctor said, you got 2 minutes to decide. And I said, I'm not going to be able to go out there. So Heath Hocking came in and played a great game and did a good job. So it was good to see him go well.
now let's be honest. We're all about honesty on the hard tag
Of
here.
course.
Is that the real reason you didn't play yesterday, or is it because you wanted to watch the Mayweather-McGregor fight?
Tommy's got a different theory. I'm a big McGregor fan, but our finals push was more important.
Wow.
Yeah,
I must say
right.
I was disappointed at some of the injured boys that they didn't have an iPad and everything prepared for the fight.
There was no pay-per-view under.
They were all ready to go
change
for the
room.
game and full attention on the game, which was disappointing.
So where did you watch the game? I remember the first week of this podcast, I asked Tom where he sat the week he didn't play the Adelaide match, and it was a big conspiracy about who he sat with, and he wouldn't tell us.
Still can't reveal that.
It was pretty lonely for me. I pulled out of the game. Everyone runs out. The doctors and everyone leave. I'm just down in the rooms by myself.
Wandering around.
I've got
by
no
what it
ticket.
seems.
I got no seat. I don't know what to do. And so I just headed up to the stats box next to the coach's box and just let myself in, sat at a chair there and watched the game from there.
Yeah, right. And Tommy, great job on the weekend. I was saying to you as you walked in here tonight, ever since this podcast started, you've just become this next level footballer.
I think this is definitely the reason why. I had the week off a couple of weeks ago to freshen up, and the last 2 weeks my body's felt really good, and I'm really excited to be playing in the finals again.
All right, let's bring him in. Andrew McGrath, obviously the first pick the Bombers have ever had, and first number 1 draft pick, and nominated for the NAB Rising Star this week. So we're really looking forward to talking to him. Andrew McGrath, as I said, the first number 1 draft pick that the club has ever had, and a NAB Rising Star nominee. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a massive honour to get recognised like this show does. Job was obviously on last week, and they obviously couldn't find someone any better because they've gone right to the bottom of the food chain to find me. But it's great to be on here.
We've gone the other way around, mate. We're stepping it up each week.
Have we gone from the oldest player to the youngest player? Is Job the oldest at the club?
Joe
He looks the oldest.
I think Kel's the oldest at the club, James Kelly. But fashion-wise, yeah, definitely Job's the oldest. Are you the youngest, Pitch?
Second or third, I think. I think
Second
a
or
couple are
third.
younger than me. I think Josh Begley might be the youngest. He
Yeah.
only recently turned 19.
It's crazy that I saw when I looked you up online today and you were born in 1998, which it just is sort of mind-boggling. That we're going to have a player in a couple of years who was born in the year 2000.
That's scary.
That's ridiculous. Pidge
Like-
could have a girlfriend that's born in the year 2000.
My girlfriend's born in 98, don't worry.
Do you know what the Y2K bug is?
No.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It was this panic that everybody had in the year 2000.
Do you know, Tommy?
Absolutely.
Oh, you guys should know. I mean, we all lived through it. The
Exactly.
harrowing times of the Y2K bug. It was everyone thought computers weren't going to be able to tick over properly from 1999 into the year 2000, and that planes would drop out of the sky and microwaves would explode, etc.
Very, very scary, Pitch.
Very scary. but we survived and seemingly never talking about it again. If you've never heard of it,
No, never heard of it.
Tell us about the NAB Rising Star. I honestly myself don't know a lot about it. It's this week, is it that right?
Yeah, it's this Friday. I guess I'm not favourite at the moment. I probably don't think I'll get the nod on Friday, but I've been happy with how the season's panned out, and it's been great to be nominated.
Very humble, the Pidge. I think he should be the favourite. He's definitely the favourite in our eyes. I think he kept Eddie Betts goalless a couple of weeks ago, and from there moved straight into the midfield. So the back line was too easy. So you're going pretty well when you start doing stuff like that.
Who is favourite? Do you know?
Ryan Burton from Hawthorn.
Right.
Sure. I think he'll win.
Is he good?
Friday.
I mean, I don't watch that many.
I don't watch that much football either, to be honest with you. I know I sit next to Pidge in the locker, and if I was a betting man, I'd be having a couple of bucks on Pidge, I reckon.
Yeah, me too. Like for mine, you're the best. But I've only seen Hawthorn like probably round one when we played them. So if you didn't play then, Ryan Burton, then I don't really know much about him.
I don't think he played that game, so I don't think you've watched him.
Do you have to have a speech or anything lined up? And I know, like, obviously trying to be humble and saying you're not going to win, but do you have to think about it?
I caught him writing a speech the other day, actually. This is true.
Well, you do your speech writing at the club?
I haven't actually even thought about that yet.
That's a lot of it.
Mate, I sit in the locker next to you, mate. I know what goes on in that locker.
Do you want me to explain what goes on in your locker?
No, mate.
Best of luck for Friday. Who goes? Does anyone else from the club go?
I think John was invited, the coach, John Worsfold. The recruiting team probably goes. My development coach, Dan Jordan, will go.
But what about your peers? Aren't you guys going?
Does Hep go? Hep
I think
won
Hep
one,
does go, but there's a bit of... We've got main training on Friday because we made the finals. They're kind of working it out because obviously the coach can't really jump out of main training to come to an event like that.
Oh, is it during the day? I just
Yeah.
assumed it was on Friday night.
No, it's a luncheon.
Oh,
So,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, don't interrupt training then. We've got a final to play.
Exactly
If
right.
we've got the winner, though, surely the coach could go and
Yeah.
present the award or something. So.
Yeah. I
I
wonder.
reckon the luncheon sounds better than training.
Yeah.
It sounds, put the feet up.
I'll be
have a
happy
bit
to.
of
I'll be
lunch.
happy to come to the
Yeah.
luncheon, mate.
Yeah,
If
do
you've
you
got a
wanna
spare
come,
ticket. I'm more than happy to.
Worsfold out. Bellchambers in.
How is it being locker buddies? I didn't know. I didn't realize that Tom was the next locker to you. Do you share a different bond to other players?
Oh, I think we do, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, I've nurtured Pidge since he walked into the club. You know, it can be quite daunting coming into the club, especially as the number one pick. I don't know anything about that, but you know,
Sure, it would be.
I sit next to you know, Pidge obviously and Darcy Parish on the other side. So I'm 28 now, so I'm kind of getting towards the latter end of my
Just
my
passing on your
career.
knowledge.
Just passing on my
Yeah.
knowledge about, you know, the day-to-day goings of the
What
football
was your
club.
approach, Pidge, coming to the club, first day at the club, obviously pretty daunting. What was you just think, puff the chest out and just walking in the locker
No,
room?
definitely not. It was more so trying to hide behind other people and just sort of blend in. But yeah, like Tommy said, he took me under his wing straight away and made me feel at home in that locker, I guess.
Bit of neighbourhood watch.
Bit of neighbourhood watch.
Yeah.
Well, funny you should say that. The old number one, Michael Hibbard, who was
That was the jumper a bit baggy.
the jumper was the rumours are the jumper and the shorts are a bit baggy around you.
Just a little bit,
Just a
yeah.
little bit.
I had to get him changed pretty early.
Did you feel like you added more pressure to being the number one pick? The club giving you number one.
At the end of the day, it was my choice. Xavier and Adrian came up to me and asked me if I wanted to wear the number one jumper, and I sort of thought about it for a bit and thought that a number doesn't really mean anything. You make what you make of it. So I thought, why not? Like, I'll take number one. I've never worn number one in my life before, and it's obviously a great number at the club and has a lot of heritage behind it. So I was honoured to take that jumper.
Which, if you could have chosen any number and it didn't affect any other players playing under that number, what would you have taken?
It's a hard question. I wore number 7 growing up, so maybe that. But having said that, I'm happy with number 1.
The lower the number, the better. That's what you start to work out after a few years.
I mean, that's
you
what
don't want to
it
get
was
stuck in
growing
the
up.
40s, do you? You don't wanna get stuck
I
up there.
started in 44. Had to work my way down to number 2. You don't want to be stuck in the 40s, mate. Seriously.
Yeah.
We've had a few chats over the years with people who have been in a higher number and playing well and then tossing up whether to change. They
Should
start to
always
work out
change.
you always change, you always go lower, as low
Yeah.
as you can go. So Pidge, he's nailed it from day one.
Well, I even saw Stanton running around in some clips this week because obviously he retired as well in was it 24, I think?
24.
So he didn't even
Yeah.
think that was low enough.
Yeah,
And he
didn't
had to
muck
go to
around.
the number
Yeah,
5.
Yeah.
So if they given the option, Cal, would you drop from 26 to a lower number?
I think now I'm happy with the 26. I feel pretty cemented with it. But early in my career, I would have got straight down.
When did you pick up number 2? I mean, if it is the lowest number to go by, then you're the second best player at the club.
Thank you. I reckon my first 6 years, I reckon 6 years I played in the 44, and then the last 4 or 5 I've been in the number 2, and I'm working my way to number 1. I'm still after that number 1 jumper.
Did you ask for number 2, or did they?
No, well, Ricky Dyson wore number 2, and he was a really close mate of mine while he was playing at the club, and he said, would you be keen to? And I said, absolutely.
Oh, really? So a player can pass on a number to another player?
Well, potentially, yeah. Like, you can kind of put a bit of a request in, and then at the end of the year, they do jumper changes and numbers, and I think if you've got
Hurls did the same with Lloydie. Lloydie
Yeah.
asked Hurls to wear the number 18.
Oh, right, yeah.
He went from 22 to 18. So it does happen a little bit.
So would Hurdy have done the same thing when Stans took over
I
number
think
5?
he did. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, right. Andy, do you believe in such a thing as the second-year hangover, which is where a player performs really well in their first year and then has an underwhelming second year? And how do you combat it?
I hope it doesn't happen to me. I guess the boys in the room will be able to see that unfold, but I don't really believe too much in it. Like you get what you put in football. So I think if I keep working hard and get a full preseason in this year, it shouldn't be a problem.
That's it, Pidge. It's a myth.
I don't think I suffered from the second year hangover. I think my first year I played 3 games, and then my second year I played about 5 games. So I was
hangovers are real.
Hangovers are real.
Just not second year.
Pidge has come in, obviously, and had a massive impact on the footy club. He's played, how many games played in your first year? 20,
I think.
20 games in his first year. So
basically won the Rising Star.
It took me about 6 years to play 20 games, I think. So it's pretty amazing what he's done, and I think he's going to hopefully get the accolades on Friday.
Yeah, well done.
Do you use any tactics? I know during the week players have the day off. A lot of players study or go to uni, play FIFA, stuff like that, and you obviously want to stay relaxed throughout the week and do that. Do you have any tactics or anything you do during the week? Stay relaxed.
I know what you're hinting at.
Anywhere you go.
The weekly Crown visits are always a good one.
Pidge is well known to frequent Crown and all the lavish hotels around Melbourne, so he hasn't mucked around with his check in his first year.
Oh right, I thought you meant like gambling.
No, not at all.
also a high roller.
He's also a big high roller.
Playing some poker or just blackjack.
Just treats the missus once a week to a night away at the most
And why
lavish
wouldn't you?
hotels.
Why wouldn't you? She's the luckiest girl in the world, I reckon.
Hopefully. No, one Friday morning I came into the club and Kale sort of came up to me and said, "Where the hell were you on Wednesday night?" I said, Chili took me to Crown on Wednesday night. We stayed the night there, had a nice dinner. He's like, I better start doing that.
Yeah,
So.
I might start copying him. It's a brilliant idea, and it's obviously working.
I guess the difference is you still live at home at the moment. That's right. Yeah. So there's a little more incentive to get away, I guess.
Definitely.
What do you reckon will be the situation when you move out of home? I mean, these guys lived together for a while, Tom and Kale, for 5 years, was it? Do you think? Do you see yourself living with other members of the club, or do you like keeping that separated?
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking in the area they're in at the moment. So I'm looking at Port Melbourne, probably at the end of next year, to buy a place down there and hopefully live with a couple of teammates. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. The drives.
Right, so you'll be their landlord. Is that what you mean? Like buy a place and like get them to rent?
Oh, if it works out that way, maybe. But
smart.
That probably is
smart
kid. I didn't want to word it that way, but yeah, I'm looking to move a little bit closer to the club at the end of next year.
Yeah.
Are you going to find it hard moving out of a palace in Brighton to some smaller apartment or house in Port Melbourne where you don't have maids there, you don't have the chef there that you can click your fingers for?
There's no teppanyaki grill.
There's no teppanyaki grill. Are you going to find that difficult?
First of all, they're straight up lies, but I'd be lying if I say I wouldn't find it difficult.
I remember you asked on the first podcast, you said, what's it like if you won $20 million? Would you be different? Would you be the same? Well, we can ask Pidge, what's it like? What's it like?
I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't have a clue. You should have asked Job last week.
Tell us a little bit about the other sports that you could have been in right now. You're a champion hurdler.
Yeah, I did athletics for a while up until the end of year 10, so when I was 16, 17, and I was fairly good at athletics. I was probably better at athletics than footy at the time when I made my decision, and I'd won a few national titles and had the opportunity to compete for Australia, which was probably when the decision came about. It was whether to put all my eggs into football or all my eggs into athletics, and at the end of the day I chose football because I just love the game more, and yeah, I guess I'm happy I made that decision now.
until the Olympics roll around, and then you watch it on TV thinking that could have been me.
Some of my friends are doing quite well. They compete at the World Juniors for Australia, which is under 21s, I think it is. The highest level you compete other than the Olympics. And yeah, when they do come around, I get a little bit jealous, but I think I'm happy with what I'm doing at the moment.
Hooksy spoke about before you moved to the midfield the last couple of weeks. You enjoying that? And do you see yourself playing in the midfield, next year and the years beyond?
Yeah, I've loved it. Having a ruckman like Tommy, it's not too hard.
That's what I was leading at there, mate.
Playing in the midfield. But
I think it feels like every week you seem to ask a question that leads back to you being a good ruckman.
I knew it was going that way, don't worry.
Very crucial players in the team, the ruckman.
And do you still talk to the backmen now that you've left, gone to the midfield? Do you still say hi to them in the locker room?
I try to, but I don't get a great reception from James Kelly. He sort of just brushes me off now.
What is that? It's like if you say goodbye to the back line for
See
good.
you later.
There's a bit of a stigma about players moving out of the back line or out of the forward line into the midfield. They just never come back.
We don't forget. People don't forget when you move.
So did you get a hard time as well, Cale, when you moved to the forward line?
I'm pretty settled, but Trav Collier is a big candidate for us. Whichever time the weights is, he's a midfielder or he's a forward, so he cops a lot of stick for that.
So is there hard groupings for backs, midfielders, forwards?
Yeah.
And where do you fit in, Tom?
I'm the ruckman. No.
It's just you and Leuenberger on your own.
You just do weights whatever you want.
Just run my own show down there. No, I'm with the mids, and I really enjoy my time with the mids.
You talked about Tom being a little bit of a role model when you came to the club. Who else stands out for you as someone who took you under their wing?
I think James Kelly's been the main one. Him and Michael Hurley being a backman for most of the year.
Previously being a backman.
An ex-backman.
I'll still call myself a
Ex-backman.
backman. But they've been great. James has almost acted like a father figure at the club. He pretty much oversees everything I do and helps me out in any way possible. So he's just been amazing. And to just get 1 year under his guidance has been amazing. He's had an amazing career, and I wish him all the best for the future.
Yeah, right. Will it leave a hole, him not being there next year?
I think it will. His leadership on the field is, I guess, he's like another coach on the field, really, for the backline group. He sees the game so well. He sees things that, I guess, younger players don't see or don't really think about. And, he'll be greatly missed in that backline group.
Pidge is right. His knowledge of the game, Kel, it's elite, and a lot of the other players that he played with down in Geelong in that era, you see that a lot of them have gone on to be assistant coaches at other clubs, and that's what Kel wants to do as well. Become a coach. It's probably it shows that they had the right program in place down there under Bomber, and they're very very good students of the game. Those players, and they'll be very good coaches as well.
So is there a chance he'll stay within Essendon?
Hopefully,
Hopefully, I'd love him to stay. I'm sure the backs would as well. And
Yeah, definitely.
I think they're trying to work through something in the club at the moment.
He'll be a good coach wherever he ends up, though. He'll be a star.
So the game on the weekend, Essendon defeated Fremantle 107-92, cementing a place in the finals in a fortnight's time. Cale, obviously, we spoke about the late withdrawal, but Tommy, again, a great game. And you know what I've started looking out for since you mentioned it on the first episode of the podcast is the very first Ruck Jewel.
Oh, and what are your thoughts?
Well, you said that you set yourself for it, and it's the most important part of your game each week.
It is very important, yes.
And
How's
so
it going?
far, he's won both of them. And you've looked very aggressive, which I think was what you wanted to do.
That's my aim, to try and intimidate the opposing ruckman standing over the other side of the circle to me. But no, as I said, it's very important to start the game. I want to be really physical as a ruckman and show aggression at the start of the game. And I think as mids, they kind of build off that. So, yeah, I've been able to do that the last couple of weeks, which has been good. And it's even going to be a step up against Sydney in the finals, so it's super important.
You also talked about during that first podcast the centre bounce, that you would prefer that they didn't bounce the
Scrap
ball
it.
and just throw it up.
Is that happening?
I don't know,
I
but
heard a rumour it is.
I heard a rumour it
Yeah.
might be happening.
really?
Yeah,
As
so-
early as next season?
Hopefully.
As early as the finals?
Hopefully. I'd be loving that.
Because they mucked
They
up
did it,
they mucked up a bunch
yeah.
on Sunday's game.
Yeah.
And then after one goal they brought it back, he just went straight to throwing it in the air.
Yeah. I actually feel sorry for the umpires. Like it's not an easy.
You reckon it's pretty tough to be able to...
It's not an easy skill, mate.
You know what I would compare it to? Somebody getting yips in front of goal,
Yeah.
and then it gets harder and harder to kick a goal after that. I reckon because this umpire on the weekend kept messing up the centre bounce, he was
got a
getting
bit rattled by it.
Yeah, he was getting harder and harder for him to do it.
I was giving him a bit of stick too when he was mucking it up, so he might have been a bit nervous.
Oh, what do you say to him?
I tell him to throw it up and just not even bother. So
then he did throw it up. So is he allowed to choose just to throw it up at one point?
I think if his confidence is that down, he can just start electing to throw it up, and that's what he did. So
And did he say to you, like, I'm just going to skip this one?
he just said, "I'm just going to throw it up."
Yeah, great.
I was like, "It's about time."
Job, of course, our guest last week, he was playing his final home and away game for the season. Did you guys all feel that extra energy in the crowd at this stadium on the weekend?
Yeah, it was amazing. The fans out there, that was the loudest probably I've felt it in Etihad Stadium. So for them to come out, and I think there was a 10,000 Job mask. I didn't see them.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you could certainly feel the vibe and the atmosphere out on the ground. And Job, as you said, had a great game. So every time he got the ball, the crowd were up and about. So it felt like, I knew he was having a good game because the crowd was always up and about.
Yeah, the roar the first couple of times he got the ball was huge. Andy, how do you feel about the playing in front of Essendon crowds? Did it blow you away the first time?
Yeah, it really did. I've never played in front of probably more than 2,000 or 3,000 at a school footy game once, but to run out in round one with 80,000 people watching was an amazing experience and something that I'll never forget. And then for that to happen consistently throughout the year is just something that you wouldn't get at any other football club. So, yeah, it's a privilege to be a part of such a massive club like Essendon is.
How do you expect the fans to come out against Sydney in a couple of weeks' time?
They're usually pretty loyal when we're interstate. We probably had more fans in Gold Coast than Gold Coast had at that game. So hopefully they come out in the masses and we get a big turnout over in Sydney in 2 weeks.
I think we've got a heavy contingent up in Sydney, and I think they've got the buses driving up late next week sometime. So that'll be, get a lot of the fans up there and try and get as many as we can to support the boys. It's been a long time since 2004, I think, was the last final that successful final that the club's been involved in. So that's obviously before Cale and my time. So Pidge is obviously, a very good opportunity to walk in the club in his first year and play in finals. I played in one final in 10 years and I think you've played in two, True.
Yeah, I think I played in a couple, and it's exciting to be able to have that experience that the team's going to get to play against a good side like Sydney and test ourselves against the best. So it's going to be exciting, and I reckon plenty of fans are going to get there to watch it.
Yeah, and the revenge story for Sydney is so big because of that 1 point loss earlier in the year.
Heartbreaking.
That was heartbreaking.
I think that's got to give us some confidence, though, knowing that we, such a close game and we're right in it.
Mate,
so.
you essentially already beat them, and then have some magic trick they pulled to actually win that game.
So we actually won.
We've already beaten them this season.
I agree.
We didn't talk about this last week, but Mad Monday. If you guys had a loss...
What do you want to know?
Well, how close to not making the finals would you have gone on Mad Monday? So if we had a lost on Sunday and then waited to see if we could still make it technically on percentage, would you have waited then till, 5:30, 6 o'clock on Sunday night to go, yep, Mad Monday's on?
Yeah, I potentially reckon we would have. We probably...
The top of the beer would probably come off as West Coast wine, and then it just wouldn't taste very good, but you'd have to drink it. So.
Yeah, right. And so is there a leader you look to, like who's organising Mad Monday?
A couple of the older boys normally put their hand up and organise it. We've kind of had it at the same venue the last couple of years, so it's
James
not...
Kelly seems to be a bit of a ringleader with that.
Kel, BJ, they're pretty good when it comes to that kind of thing. It's actually not too hard to organise. We've kind of we've spoken about it briefly, but obviously our focus is on finals football.
We backed ourselves in, and the VFL are in the finals as well. So we'll wait till the VFL finish, or hopefully the VFL will be at the same time, or they'll be waiting for us. So we'll wait for both teams to finish before we have our proper Mad Monday.
So should we call the end of this podcast like the Monday after?
Not after Mad Monday.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. So essentially, we'll do the last podcast the game before we finally lose or win the grand final.
Correct. We spoke about maybe doing a live podcast show from Mad Monday, but I don't know how that'd go down.
Yeah, maybe. So after Sunday's game, it leaves us 7th position on the ladder. And of course, we only have to look as far back as last year to see that the Bulldogs won the premiership from 7th position. So we're looking pretty good for the rest of the year.
I think it makes sense, definitely they finish 7th, they win the flag, we finish 7th, we win the flag.
Andy, we asked people on Facebook and Instagram to get involved with the show and ask us some questions. We had some great ones overnight, so thank you for everybody who participated on social media.
What are you shaking your head at, Pitch?
Just what was on your phone just then.
What's that, mate?
I don't know. I don't want to say it.
Please share. I mean, we just said at the
Honesty,
start of the
we're
show, it's all about
we're
honesty.
all about honesty on
Who
here,
was that
mate.
Snapchat from, mate?
Hey?
Who was that Snapchat from?
I don't know what you're talking about, mate.
Tom, you're just trying to tell him we're all about honesty, and now you're
Bit
trying
of
to brush it away.
infighting
I take him
between
under
the
my wing and then he throws me under the bus. So I don't know about this.
We'll find out eventually and find out who you were sitting with at the Adelaide game by the end of the season.
Sounds good.
Andy, Dylan James asks, Andy, which opposition player have you learnt most from playing on?
Probably Jamie Elliott. He killed me, to put it bluntly, in the first quarter when we played Collingwood the second time. He's just a running machine. He runs up and down. Mark Harvey, the backline coach, said before the game that their forwards didn't really run too hard, so I came into the game thinking, oh, this should be all right. And then all of a sudden, he's running up and down, up and down, up and down. He's had 10 possessions to kick the goal in the first quarter, and I'm just thinking, far out, this is going to be a hard day. And I sort of held him up a little bit after that, but he probably taught me the most about how hard good half forwards work.
How do you go as a runner as well? I mean, you said that you were an athlete. Are you better a sprinter or can you run all day?
I'm a better sprinter. I'm okay over a longer distance, but I definitely prefer sprinting.
Would he be one of the fastest at the club?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll be getting him to the forward line eventually too. It's just only a progression. Back line, midfield, forward line.
How
We'll
come
get
you
him there
skipped the
eventually.
midfield when you made that transition?
Tommy already had that covered, so I just went straight through.
Okay, this is a completely different type of question, but Paigey Eli asks, what is your favourite Disney movie?
We're ready for that one, were you, mate?
No, not at all. Does Cars count?
Cars, I think, is Disney Pixar, so I'm going to allow it.
Yeah, Cars.
Crazy that you were like born after The Lion King.
Yeah, I was very young watching
Yeah.
Lion King.
Yeah, like that was like 4 or 5 years before your time.
Yeah,
But you have seen it?
I have seen
And
it. Yeah.
Aladdin, all the classics?
Aladdin's probably too far back.
4 years
for me.
Too
Oh.
far back.
Yeah,
Jeez.
there's TV shows about it, but not the original.
Oh, wow. What about you guys? What Disney film?
I think you can't beat the Lion King.
I wasn't a big I wasn't
TV
a big
guy.
TV guy when I was younger.
What, just TV in general?
Well, I don't know. I didn't watch many Disney movies, I don't think. I think I had 2 older brothers
Yeah.
and they were, 5 or 6 years older than me. So I was kind of always trying to watch
Watching
what they were
macho
watching.
stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to be cool. And,
Yeah,
like,
What about like just general TV shows and stuff? Did you watch The Simpsons?
Simpsons, big fan of The Simpsons.
Yeah,
Love
good.
The Simpsons.
Family Guy.
Yeah.
Big Family Guy.
So Simpsons would even predate you, really, Andy. I mean, it still goes, but the new Simpsons is no good.
Yeah, I never really got into. The
Oh
Simpsons.
man, what a
Missing
wonderful
out.
life you
Missing
have ahead
out.
of you to find out all the golden years of The Simpsons.
I'll ask you a question.
Yeah,
Why
jump in,
you
jump
can't
in.
find one there, Jack. Do you think it's appropriate for an 18-year-old kid to be wearing a Rolex watch? Mate?
It isn't a Rolex.
That is, mate. That is a Rolex.
Read
You're sitting next to me.
Rolex.
Chook, is that a
Yeah,
Rolex?
Yeah, it's a Rolex. I can confirm.
We can confirm.
I do like my watches, but it's not a Rolex.
Big watch guy.
Big watch fan.
Did you splurge on anything the first time you got a paycheck from the club?
Not really.
Just a couple of nights at Crown.
I did treat my girlfriend a few times for her birthday and our anniversary, I think. But other than that, not really, no.
How's things changed for her as well? How long have you guys been together for?
14, 15 months now. I probably
Yeah, right.
should know
Ooh.
that. But
Edge.
yeah, so a bit over a year. Yeah, she gets a little bit annoyed when people sort of interrupt us when we're out for dinner or out in public and
Tough
stuff.
life,
but,
isn't it?
no, she's fine. She's pretty laid back and sort of understands what comes with being an AFL footballer.
Do you get it much? Like all of you guys, do you get people coming up to you when you're eating dinner and
I think you do a bit. Being such a big club, Essendon, everyone tends to know what who Essendon players are and that kind of thing. So I think you do get it a fair bit. I know, especially when I used to live over and around Essendon. That's obviously probably it's a bit worse over that side of the city than it is over in the beautiful Port Melbourne, sunny side of Port Melbourne.
Yeah.
But
Generally, people are pretty good there.
if you're living in Brighton, you're trying to get as far away from the club as possible?
Yeah, not many people know Essendon and Brighton.
talk us about the story when your missus told a girl off on Instagram.
That's probably come from Basil, our media guru. But yeah, so I was getting these messages from this random Essendon fan, and she was sort of kept messaging me about what I was doing, and I posted an Insta story of me and my girlfriend out for breakfast, and you can reply to Insta stories and write messages about them, and this girl took it upon herself to say that should be me replacing my girlfriend, and my girlfriend wasn't too happy about it. So
why'd you show it?
she likes
She's the luckiest girl in the world.
And she sort of stole my phone and sort of sent a photo of her saying "lol nah," like laugh out loud no, and then this girl sort of sent a message through to Essendon saying how probably wasn't the right thing to do. And
So did they have a back and forth, or that was it?
it was probably just a back and forth, and it ended there. I told my girlfriend she wasn't allowed to reply to fans' messages anymore, and it sort of ended like that.
And so the fan approached the club, and what was her complaint?
Just that it was a bit rude. Probably was a bit rude on.
It's
rude
not
of her.
it's not rude whatsoever by your girlfriend. It's rude of her, exactly. And that's
She
exactly
just
what
heard the rumours how good Pidge is to the ladies, and she just wants to try and jump on.
she wants. Crown, you know.
She wants that lifestyle.
the lavish dinners. She wants the Rolexes.
The first week of the podcast, Tom and Cal were talking about the fine system that's set up at the club, and that a lot of it comes back to social media and how people use their social media. Have you had any problems with the fine system yet?
I've had a couple. I've had a few fines, but they're mainly from the younger boys. I think I'm okay from the older boys at the moment.
But isn't it all anonymous anyway?
Yeah.
Or do you slowly find out who did what?
Pidge and I sit next to each other in the locker, so Pidge sees me writing a lot of fines down.
If they're not about me, it's all right.
Pidge has been pretty good. He's been pretty good. The young boys, as he said, the young boys kind of tend to stitch each other up a bit, but he's all clear from the older boys at the moment.
Thanks, mate.
Joe was saying the same kind of stuff last week, how much of a model citizen you are, and, you know, everybody only has nice things to say about you. Did you ever go through a teenage angst year or anything?
Suspension.
I don't think so.
You've egged someone's house, surely.
I've been in the car, yes. But I hope that's not ahead of me. That would be a worry.
You just could be late onset teenage angst, and it doesn't come for another 2 years.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good, would it? But no, I've never really had sort of a year where I've gone off the rails or anything, which is probably a good thing, and keeps my parents happy, which is also good.
Job also said on last week's episode that you are the kind of guy he would be happy with marrying any of his sisters. You have an older sister. Who at the club would you be most comfortable with dating your sister?
How old's the older sister?
She's 22. Okay. 22.
What's your age bracket, Tom? It seems like that's what you're weighing up there.
Half your age plus 6, isn't it?
Don't tell Andy's girlfriend that Job's happy with this, because she'll be onto that. Job's sisters, if they know.
Yeah, she might be listening right now. So
yeah, right. Job's sisters will start getting it back and forth, and
careful.
then Job's sisters will have to approach the club and file a complaint.
It's a hard question. There's a lot of great guys around footy clubs, but I don't think I'd like my sister to date a footballer, to be completely honest.
That's probably a good answer. Well done. I thought we usually end the show by having a look at the next opponent for the Bombers, but because we're not playing the Swans for a couple of weeks, and we'll probably cover that off on next week's episode, I thought I would do an Essendon in review quiz for you guys. So see how much you know about the Bombers this year. Work together, try and come up with the answers.
Each man for their own.
Who has had the most disposals all season?
Zach Merritt.
Zach Merritt.
Under mate.
There's a lot of questions I could ask where Zach Merritt would be the answer. Who's got the most tackles for the season?
You, Tommy?
Thank you, Squire, but no. I'm going to say...
I'm going to go Dyson Heppel.
I'm going to go Waller.
I'm going to say Travis Collier.
Zach Merritt.
You're just up there.
Who takes the most bounces at the club this year?
Fantasia.
No.
Connor McKenna.
Connor McKenna, yeah. Head and shoulders above everybody else. At least like double the next. Do you know which 3 Bombers were named in the 40-man All-Australian squad yesterday?
Big Joey.
Who else?
Zach Merritt.
Correct. Well done. Does it get announced at the club, those kind of achievements?
I think there'll be some recognition for it, perhaps in a meeting or something later in the week, just to... obviously we know the guys have had a great year, but it's good to be rewarded for it. So yeah.
Can you name the 5 players from Essendon who've played every home and away game this season?
Dyson Heppel.
Correct?
Goddard,
Yep.
Danaher,
Yep.
Tip and Woody.
Correct.
I know my forwards.
Have you all got all 4?
I got one.
Got one.
One more.
Andy, you need to get this
I've
one.
not got one.
Potentially a backline player.
No. Someone you all know very well because he plays for you.
Need to give us a clue.
He played last
was it?
year. Yeah, I mean, he
Good
like
clue.
That wipes half the
Well,
team out.
yeah.
That wipes half the team out, mate.
but he is an older player, or he's been around at least.
David Zaharakis.
Zaharakis, correct. Well done. You guys killed that quiz. I should have put more questions on it. Any parting questions for our guest? Andy, you've been a great guest. We've loved having you.
Super pitch. Great work, mate. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, well done. We've got you a lock for the Rising Star, mate. Been fantastic all year, and well done on such a great season, and hopefully we can finish it off in style the
Thanks,
last few
Hooksy.
weeks.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, hopefully.
Obviously, footy players can't bet on footy, like outcomes of games and stuff. Are you allowed to bet on something like the Rising Star?
Unfortunately, no, because it's money for jam.
So, hey, can you not gamble at all? When I thought you were gambling at Crown, is that off limits as
No,
well?
that's okay.
That's off limits.
That's okay.
Just no
It's just
sports
not
betting.
not on football, not on
Yeah.
AFL. Sports is okay, just not AFL.
No Brownlow, nothing.
No Brownlow, no.
Yeah. Good boys.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Pidgey.